Hey y'all, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, this is Joe and Jay Outspoken. Remember to follow all of our platforms, and you can find them by going to linktree/Joe and Jay Outspoken. Today's show is for Tuesday, September 12th. I'm Jay, and today Joe and I will be going over the events that happened in Lahaina, Hawaii, and the controversies and conspiracies surrounding it. So, Joe, was it lasers or just failing infrastructure?
You know what? You know me. I'm not a big guy on conspiracy theories, but man, this one's really got me thinking. There's just so many weird things going on over there. And you know, it's not on the news anymore. You don't hear it anymore. So it's one of those things that like, oh, it's gone now and over. So I'm kind of intrigued. So it's going to be a good topic.
Yeah, they brushed it under the rug. Well, yeah. I still think it was aliens.
The green ones, not the brown ones.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to our channel. Thanks for joining us again. We had a great time last week, and this week we're going over some of the things that have happened in Lahaina, Hawaii. I'm sure everybody has seen parts of it on the news, and yeah, there's a bunch of questions to be asked. Whether or not the government made good decisions, the local government there, and then obviously our federal government, their lack of response that they had, and all those kind of things. And then there's a bunch of stuff happening on the backside of that, where there's thoughts of lasers and conspiracies of all kinds. So we're going to try to dig into all that kind of stuff and try to have an open mind for all of it, because it was really weird. So
we're going to try to cover it for all our viewers, all our different viewers, conspiracy theorists, the government haters, everybody. We're going to cover it for everybody.
we love it all. We love it all.
Yeah, well, you know what? Just to initially say that it's a sad thing what's happened there, right? You and I, we joke around a lot in our podcasts and things like that. But in all seriousness, this is very sad. What happened to the residents of Lahaina, and it's just crazy, Jay, because social media, just everything, something like this happens, it goes off the hook, right? You have your extreme conspiracy theorists, and you got your extreme government people that are talking about just certain things, and then you have just people that are trying to piece it all together, right? Because you're getting so much information, but I do want to talk about just the facts of things, right? And some of the things that, of course, that are factual when it comes to some of these conspiracy theories, right? Everyone's heard about the laser, right? And they've talked about it and how they can operate on different frequencies, which is true, right? I think everyone's seen that TikTok where they got this laser going over different fabrics of color, and the blue one doesn't get any damage, right? You saw that, right? I think you saw that one.
The blue doesn't catch on fire or do anything.
Correct, because I guess they use a different frequency, whatever the case is. And then of course,
the nerdy response to that is the laser is at that same light frequency wave that the blue is, so it has no effect. It's kind of like using, like, if you're in a room that has lasers, you use special goggles, because that basically cuts down the light emission for the lasers.
Right. So, and we've all seen those images, right, of like those blue tents, right, that stuck out, the blue the blue cars that were not damaged, and all cars around them.
The umbrellas at the cafe, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And then the cars that were not, they're down a road, and all the cars are burnt except the blue ones, right? And there's like I think I even saw one where there's a piece of blue metal sitting in someone's back of their truck.
Right.
The truck is destroyed, but that blue metal was it survived, right? So we've all seen those videos, and it's like, it gets you thinking, right? I think I had I don't know if I sent it to you or someone sent it to me, but one of my friends down here, she sent me a bunch of these different videos, and I'm trying to go through every one, and I'm looking like, man, they're all valid, right? They're all like they go with what the conspiracy theorists are saying, because she's a big conspiracy theorist like you, bro. So I gotta decipher between like reality and for me, right? I'm like, there's a lot of you. I did not know this, apparently. Uh,
Well,
but
you know
anyway,
what? I don't call myself so much a conspiracy theorist
I call you that.
do you? Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So I guess I would be, as far as an outsider would be concerned, because I love the stuff. I love hearing about it. I love diving down a rabbit hole on it, and like we've talked about the whole flat Earth stuff before. I don't
I think it's
believe
flat.
in. I
I
don't.
don't think that's a
Yeah,
conspiracy. It's flat.
and we're just a giant whammo frisbee is all we are. So I don't really go with that, but again, I respect like all the information and work and everything they've put into trying to make it where it's a truth. And I tell you, over the course of the last 2 to 4 years, there's a lot of stuff that used to be conspiracy theory 4 or 5 years ago that has come out to be truth now. So that's the thing you got to start thinking about.
You're not wrong. I'm not saying that all conspiracy. There was this. It's funny because she also sent me this joke, right? With this guy's talking about, the government. And goes like, "Do you guys believe the government? You guys really think the government's batting 1,000?" And he's talking.
I saw that.
He's like, he goes,
yeah.
I'm responsible for one kid, and I lied to him every day.
Right.
So it was kind of funny. I'm like, okay,
yeah.
I get your point, right? But she's also sent me this video where there's residences all around, right? And there's this empty lot. And in that empty lot, there's 2 cars that are completely burnt, right? And some grass around it, but no building around it. And then even the aluminum melt. That's hard to do because you have to reach a certain degree of temperature to melt the aluminum. And
right.
I'm looking and I'm like, okay, look, I get what you're saying, but I can't explain it. I mean, it's not like a tow truck came and just planted all these things throughout Lahaina. So those are the things that are kind of important to look at, right? I mean, so let's expand on that a little. Who or what would benefit from what happened in Lahaina, right? So now we got to look at the not so much conspiracy theories, correct?
Oprah.
So and not only her though, we have Bezos, we have all kinds of people that live out in Lahaina, right? And big mansions, right? They're like, and most of those are on the coast, right? They're on the by the beach, right? Because that's where all the view is. But Oprah, what she I think recently she had purchased like what was it, 870 acres of agricultural land for like 6.6 million. Like, why does anyone need that much? Right. Honestly, you know what I mean? I mean, what would Oprah need that much acreage? Like, she put something on there because she does hikes or something, and she has this it's a podcast or show of hiking, and I'm like, do you need private land to do hiking? Like, you know what I mean?
Maybe that's what she wants. She just wants nobody to be able to be near her.
Correct. So what happened, for example, down in when we had Hurricane Katrina. Remember Hurricane Katrina?
Yes.
Okay. Devastation, right? A lot of those areas didn't rebuild. A lot of those areas just kind of died, right?
Right.
Lands were acquired, and they did something else with those lands. So you know about eminent domain, correct?
Right. That's when they take away they basically offer you whatever the value is, blue book value, whatever you want to call it, for your home, and that's it. You take it and
correct. So here's right. So you remember that because that happened in our town. You remember that happened. Eminent domain happened when they wanted to expand a local mall
behind the mall. Yeah.
Right.
All those people in what was it called? Mayfair.
I think so. Yeah. And they want, because they wanted
100 years ago, man.
Man, I'm telling you. So here's the thing about eminent domain. So it gives that government that power, right, to take property and stuff. But under the Fifth Amendment, that property has to be for public use. Okay.
Right.
So
roads and infrastructure and stuff like that, or parks, or whatever.
Correct. And you know that property in Lahaina, because it's Hawaii, isn't cheap. Right. So how can you so if these rich people want to come in and they want to pork in some money, they want to like, hey, throw money around, right? What's the best way to do it legally, right? Because you can't do eminent domain for
private
private
land.
use, right?
Right.
So what would be another way? Total devastation, right? Burn it down, right? You condemn the buildings. Hey, you can't go back over there. It's condemned. Totally wreck it down, right? Now, I don't know if you guys noticed, but recently in California, who was it? State Farm pulled out of doing home insurance. Did you read about that?
I didn't.
Yeah, they pulled out because of all the wildfires. Like, nah, man, we can't afford it. We're gonna go broke. Trying to hold these insurances. So they've kind of in California they pulled out of home insurance. Do you think that based on the cost of these properties, right? Now, if the government down in Hawaii, if they say, hey, you know what, they're condemned, you can't live on them, we gotta, pennies on the dollar, right?
Right.
Because they're burned down. So now you have these predatory land buyers, right? That come in and say, hey man, we're gonna get that off your hands, right? And offer them nothing to buy these lands. It's already started. People have already been offering to buy property down there.
Yeah.
And what do? You get that money, you flip it around, and you make millions of dollars down there.
Yep.
I think Will Smith and his wife there a few years back were involved in some iffy things down in Hawaii, based on real estate. So these are the things that you have to kind of question, man. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it is kind of weird because there were some news channels and stuff that were trying to, obviously, when that happened, it was hard for anybody to get any kind of information at all. And it was, I don't know if it was in that first week or what have you, but there was vans and then people just like YouTube folks and people that had, more local based channels and things. They were driving around there and they were putting that temporary fencing up with like the green netting over it. So you couldn't see into that area.
Fencing?
Yeah. The privacy fencing. And, it's like, why would they be spending so much money on doing that? I mean, they're going to spend it was $700 per person is what they were going to spend. The federal government was going to send over to the,
that's what they gave them. Here, put your lives together with $700. It's going to cost you $50 for a gallon of milk in Hawaii, but here's $700.
So the thing is, and I don't know if it would be the entire populace because obviously we don't know the number of people that were specifically affected by this whole thing. But I mean, there's 13,000 and change, 13,000 plus people that live in Lahaina, right? 13,000. If you multiply that by $700 a person, that's 9.1 million is what it would be to give everybody $700. And
Oprah spent 6.6 on 870 acres.
I know. So it's like it's a drop in the bucket when you start looking at things. I mean, 9.1 million would help anybody out. $700 doesn't really do anything for anybody, right?
No.
And the fact that we keep, dumping money overseas into a war that obviously is not going to go anywhere or do anything. And they keep, and we won't do that same thing for people in our own country is just really disgusting. There's a lot of, they call them haoles over there. That's people that are not of Hawaiian background,
Mm-hmm.
whether you want to call them white folks or anybody else that's,
we'll
not
call them
native,
Anglos,
not native Hawaiian. And, but there are a lot of native people and there's some places that burned down that had been there a long time,
Mm-hmm.
that were historical places,
cultural places.
Yeah. Cultural places. And that's the stuff that hurts my heart the most is to see things like that. And those people that are displaced that have lived there for generations. I mean, it's not like they just like house fires are terrible, right? Anybody loses a house, it sucks, especially your personal items like, pictures and things that can't be replaced. Like, people nowadays look at pictures and they see it it's on their phone. It's in the cloud somewhere or whatever. You can replace that stuff. Well, we're from old school times when you took a picture and it got printed up and that's the only picture you had of that.
Yeah.
So, those mean a lot to folks. So Yeah, there's a lot to be sad about over there, but then there's um, that community, the group of people that are over there have been banding together so much. I forget what the name of the neighboring community, but they're going to actually bring like their help center. They're going to move it into Lahaina. So instead of it being, farther away, they're going to move it closer in. So, and this is a whole nother community, so these are the things that the folks that live in these areas, they're bonded together pretty tightly, because they're small communities. I mean, 13,000 people in a city. How many, dude? We had a couple episodes ago, living in a small town. Even when we were kids, man, our town was way bigger than 13,000 people. I think we were at like 36, like right around 40,000 people, and that
I think
was
we were less than that when we were in school.
Maybe
was it 30? Like 20?
Was it 28?
Yeah, 28 like
to
27, 28 around in there. Yeah.
That's what it was. But still, 28,000 is a lot more than 13,000, I mean, that's like, it's less than half. So, very small, probably a really, really tight knit community. And man,
that's how many people were at my quinceañera. It was about 13,000. Just kidding. Anyway, I said that like I was white. Quinceañera. Sorry.
Quinceañera.
So I'm going to say something that probably a lot of people are not going to like, but minorities are very hard on other minorities. You know what I mean? I don't want to say hard, but the meanest, right? And I knew this from experience, right? Because when I was younger, my mom and we used to go down to Mexicali a lot, right? And some of the meanest people coming back when you cross that border is the Mexican or the Hispanic Border Patrol agents. They were the rudest, the meanest, right? Every time we got a white person, go right ahead, right? You know what I mean? And we just walked, right? They wouldn't even ask me. The Hispanic ones are like, where were you born? Right. And I'm like scared, bro. I'm like, what? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a kid. Right. So, and the reason I'm saying this is because you do know, right, that there was no water. Right.
Yeah.
When the fires were going, there was like no water. And one of the person in charge of the water there, he started talking about like, a water god, or that they value the water. And I'm like,
right.
Are you avoiding the question? Like, why wasn't the water on? You know what I mean? Like, why was it not working? And when you give an answer like this, especially like on an island, right in the middle of the ocean, you have issues. There's something going on, right?
Yeah.
The second part to that is the fact that no alarms went off. Right. What happened to the alarms? And so, what happened to the alarms? The people who run that were in a conference in a neighboring town. Right. And I'm like, how does that make sense? So is there like an actual person that's standing there with their finger on the switch ready to hit the alarm? That you have to be, at this point, everything's automated, right? An emergency goes off and boom, it's automatic, right? Just like here, if there's a tornado coming, we get the tornado sirens going off, right? So it's not like there's someone there waiting patiently, like waiting for the weather to hit. I just don't understand that. I don't understand how them being in a conference in a neighboring island or town, I don't know what it was, prevented the alarm system from working or being functional or being active. To me, that's like an investigation. Like, bro, why did that go off? Right? That lives could have been saved. I was going to say millions, but I'm sorry. Lives could have been saved if the system was active. Right. And if it wasn't active or it didn't engage, shouldn't that be an investigation in your head? Like,
I would definitely think so. I mean,
and the water. Wouldn't all these be something that someone should be looking into?
Yeah, well, the deputy director, the guy that was working on the the Water Resource Management Commission or what have you, his name's M. Callio Manuel. Anyways, he's a local there.
Yeah.
But again, it becomes to this politics thing, the politicians and
sellouts. That's what we call them.
Brother, man. It's like, so what are we saving water for? What are we saving water for? Well, we're saving water for people. Well, you had people lose their lives in this tragic fire. So that water you saved for them did no good, right? So, and the thing is that, I mean, this is little off tangent here, but the amount of water that is on this earth right now is the same amount that was on this earth 6,000 years ago, if you believe that, 60,000 years ago, if you believe that, 60 million years ago. It's the same amount of water. It's just in different forms, whether it's in ice, it's in the ocean, it's in clouds. The only water that has ever left this earth went on a spaceship and was shot into space somewhere. That's it. Everything else has always been here. Now, it's in different forms, and it could be in, used to be a clean water puddle, now it's a dirty water puddle, but the thing is, you're on an island surrounded by water, right. Nothing but water. Not having, I mean, you think about, how do they put out forest fires in the middle of there's no fire hydrants in the middle of the forest, right? No. So how do they put out a forest fire? Well, they have planes come and helicopters, and they'll dip into lakes and all kinds of stuff, and they dump the water in the fire, right? Of course, they have the pink stuff, that they'll dump too. But when you start thinking about it, it's like, well, where's that water go? Well, it either evaporates in the fire, or it goes back into the groundwater, and probably goes back to that same lake it was pulled out of, because it all goes down to that.
I mean, but I've even seen where helicopters come and take them from pools. They take them from pools.
Yeah.
And they're not going to ask you permission. They're taking your chlorine pool water and
absolutely. If like there was a fire in my local, and they were like, hey, can we, like you say, they wouldn't ask you permission, I'd be pleased. My pool means nothing to me next to my neighbor's house, right?
Right.
Like, take all that water out and save my neighbor's house.
Right.
So it makes no sense. And honestly, I think this guy, if I remember correctly, hearing something, so don't quote me on this, but I want to say he either resigned or stepped down or something like that because of all the controversy on this whole thing. So
did he? I hope he did, because it's just, there's just too much left to ask after the disaster, right? It's like, why? It just doesn't make sense. And him going on a tangent about how the water's important and how they treat it like a god and things like that. I mean, that guy was kind of like off, and I felt like he was trying to make excuses more than anything. And he should be gone. The other thing that was happening, I don't know if you paid attention, but like, there was a lot of residents went to the city council meetings, right? Where they were confronting the mayor, who happened to disappear during these topics, right? There's just been so much videos I've seen of and there hasn't just been one. There's been several council meetings, privately, open to the public, and people are allowed to come talk to them, but they're like very standoffish. Like, that's the last thing you want to be with with the people of these communities who've lost everything. Why would you want to be standoffish? Why wouldn't you sit there and happily answer the questions to what's going on? And it's just sad to see, because at the end of the day, I mean, we're dealing with just humanity, man, like caring about them, right? And I think I hear if it was like the relief effort by FEMA was poor, the response by FEMA was kind of poor. Is another thing I read by the Maui survivors over there is like, man, they're like late to show up, or I don't know what it was, but I know there was some complaints about how FEMA responded. And that's another sad thing, when you and here's the thing about policies and government and administrations, when that happens, they start comparing it to everything else, right? When this president is sitting there happy to say, hey guys, we got you. We got $700 coming to every citizen who owned property, but whatever he said, I don't understand most of the time what he's saying. But yet we're
for international pressure.
Oh my God. Yet he's forking out billions of dollars to Ukraine, right? Which really, do they need it? No. I mean, that's just another topic. But when he's doing things like that, what are you telling the citizens of Lahaina?
Right.
You're not a priority, guys. We're giving you $700. Be happy you got that. Move on with your life.
Well, here's the thing. All these groups that are so concerned about people of color and everything, They're not. They don't give a crap. They're in it for their own thing. And I'll say it outright, man. And maybe we get a ding on this channel or whatever, but like Black Lives Matters and stuff like that. The fact that people stand behind those organizations that are terrible for the exact people that they claim to be for. So let me ask you guys something. So if Beverly Hills lit up on fire, right? How quick do you think the response would be? Like if one mansion caught on fire, to not let the next mansion catch on fire, regardless of the situation.
Bro, you have engines from every surrounding county,
everything,
municipality, everybody,
airplanes, everything. Mm-hmm. Why? Because it's a bunch of rich people. Now, you could say it's a bunch of white people, and I'm okay with you saying that, but it's a bunch of wealthy people that have a bunch of power in there, right? Now,
money talks, buddy.
Money talks. So you said about the the Red Cross and stuff like that not
FEMA.
and FEMA not being there. Well, you mentioned earlier also about hurricanes and things like that have happened, and they happen in primarily what areas of people of color, right? Yeah. And how quick was the response? It was terrible response, right? And those areas suffered for longer, right? And same thing that's happening here. Now, we don't care about these people of color in our own country, but a bunch of white people across the world in a country called Ukraine, we'll spend all kinds of money on. So I challenge all of you companies and people and everybody that cries so much about all this stuff about people of color. This is the time to do it right now, is get out there and be boisterous about this. Take the money away from all this nonsense. They're funneling money in Ukraine. I mean, the fact that people don't see that you have a current president and his son and a whole family of corruptness, right?
That's just coincidence. That's just coincidence.
Just coincidence. True. Yeah. This is no different than mafia based stuff going on, right? We are filtering so much money. They've already admitted, and I'll put up the news stuff. They've already admitted that they lost all kinds of money on one of the shipments of cash that went over there. They don't even know what happened to it.
I know what happened to it. It's in Hunter's bank account.
It's in. It went up his nose in a little baggie.
Bro, it's not cheap anymore.
Yeah, it's not cheap anymore. So inflation, man, Bidenflation. So, sorry, I got on a little rant, but that's the thing that you need to start looking at is these people and these companies and these groups and all this stuff. Oh, we care so much about it. No, you don't. No, you don't care anything about it, because if you did, you'd be making a stink about it, and it'd be all over the news right now. CNN and MSNBC would be covering it, and there would be riots in Hawaii because you'd have, people would be rioting to get those people help. But guess what? You're not going to do that. You're not going to do that. You know why you riot? Because you want a new pair of Louis Vuitton shoes or a purse or something like that.
Yeah, there's absolutely no benefit in any of what they did or what they've done or what they're doing. There's nothing, because no one benefits at the end of the day. There's no new community centers being built. There's no new businesses being built in minority communities. There's nothing. They're doing nothing to help anybody but themselves. And we can't excuse the government, because we talk about FEMA and everything else and all these disasters that happen across our nation, right? But when the Hurricane Katrina, you know how much money was lost through FEMA with just their responses, right? They had these trailers that were left behind that people took, or there's money that local governments took. There is zero oversight on any of these offices out there in the government. Like, they have no control. FEMA's blowing money left and right, and at the end of the day, they're like BLM. And no one benefits but themselves, right? And it's just a big old money laundering scheme with zero control. I mean, come on, man. And again, I'm like you, going off on a rant. This is a reason why career politicians don't like Donald Trump, right? Because the dude's not a career politician. Just hear him talk for like 10 minutes, bro. You already know he's not a career politician, right?
Right.
But that's what you know what I'm saying? I mean, they people like that. When it's like work, bro. When someone new starts at your job, whatever job, right? You know nothing about them. You're a little you're a little concerned. You're a little like, is this guy get put in here as a
Skeptical of him.
spy? Is
Right.
well, what is he doing? What's going on with him? Right? He's not part of our clique, so he clearly doesn't know how things run here. So could we trust him? Could we not? Blah blah blah. That's Trump when he became president, right? Everybody's like, could we slide some things through there? And Trump's like, nah, I'm cleaning house, buddy. You know, I don't need your money. You know what I mean?
Right.
Which
and
is
that's why they immediately didn't like him, right? Because so I guarantee you he announces that he's going to run, right? And I mean, it's within that week. It's like, there's not going to be a President Trump. There's this and this and that. I guarantee you that when he was hinting towards it, that there were people that immediately went to him and said, hey, if you become president, we'll do this X, Y, and Z for you. You know, you just push this through or push that through and do all, you know, all that kind of stuff. And he was like, no, we're not going to do that. You know, we're going to.
They sounded just like that.
Yeah, we're going to do what's right. Well, probably. Yeah. And that's what angered all these people.
Yeah.
And then who's that anger on top of that? It angers all of their, you know, if you want to call it constituents, the people that are going to benefit from lobbyists, that are going to benefit from all of this stuff.
Yeah.
So,
but sorry guys for going off on the subject a little bit, but it we do go off sometimes like that, but it's only because it all kind of ties in. You know, it's a bigger picture. I mean, we look at things like Lahaina, the derailments, right? All these fires that in farms, in dairy farms, right? In pig farms, we see all these things happening, and we can't help but think, hey, man, what's really going on? You know, and I know, guys, I'm not a big conspiracy theorist, but you know, at one point, it can't be like just coincidence. I mean, at one point you're gonna have to say, okay, look, man, this is way too much going on, right? And then you hear about China buying farmland, right? And you hear about all these things that you're like, you know, and you hear, who is it? Microsoft, what was his name?
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates buying agricultural land as well. And, you know, like, what are they trying to do? You know, at the end of the day, is it bigger than just Lahaina? Is it bigger than, you know, some of these areas that have these disasters that have been happening, you know, all these wildfires going on? It's important to look at the whole picture, right? I mean, we're focusing on Lahaina because that's a horrible tragedy. I mean, all these are tragedies, but that's the most current tragedy that's happened that has impacted and affected many, many people, right? And not just people from Hawaii, but they're not just Hawaiian, they're Americans, right? They're our people. And for us to not give it that importance, for us to just look, that was last week's news. Let's not forget about that, because you know, you have these entertainment industry now, right? You got The Rock and Oprah saying, hey man, just donate, it's gonna go directly to blah blah blah. So now I'm finding out that their little fundraiser thing that they got going on is part of the entertainment industry, right? And another benefactor, and again, these are things that I'm looking at. Another benefactor to that is currently who's on strike right now. Writers, right?
Writers Guild, yeah,
they're all on strike, which also benefit from that same community, the entertainment industry. So I'm like, is this really going to people from Lahaina, or is it going to the writers who are on strike? Because you know what, they're losing, a lot of those guys are losing their apartments, they're losing their places because the strike is going a long way. And just to comment about one of our old episodes, they might not be getting their jobs back. AI might be taking over writing scripts. So just throwing that out there.
Right.
But yeah, so we have to really focus on whether it's conspiracy or not, they're still Americans, right? And what are we doing as a community to get to the bottom of this? Like, what's happening? Hey, look, it could have been a fire started by a loose wire because of poor maintenance. It could have been the laser beam from a satellite that the U.S. has launched. It could have been from enemies. It could have been from Oprah's spaceship that she has, right? There could be so many things how this started. But at the end of the day, there are many questions that have still not been answered, right? Like, why was the water off? Why weren't people warned, right? all these questions. Why,
Right.
why only $700? Why the poor response by FEMA? Why? I mean, there are so many questions. Now I'm hearing there's kids missing, right? I don't know if that's another conspiracy theory, but I mean, do we even have an accurate account on how many people are still missing?
Brother, I tried looking it up, and that's why I said I just went by a general population of around 13,000 because they're still not. I mean, think about how far we are in, and this is not a third world country. We're not digging rubble after an earthquake and don't even know if there were people in the building. We know, folks know how many people were there, but everything's being covered up so much. And
wasn't there a blackout, like a media blackout?
There was. Well, I was following a couple people that are actually broadcasting from over there that live in the area. One of the guys actually him and his wife lost their home, and they're trying to get the truth out, and they've had to go. They don't want to say exactly where they're at, but they've tried to go, farther away where they could actually get like internet service and cell connection and all that, because all of that stuff was taken down. Now that could have been taken down by the fire,
Right.
early on, because I mean, if it cut through, and I don't know what their internet service is, whether it's a, 2-wire, it's cable, it's, fiber connection. I don't know what it is over there. So I'm just guesstimating at this point. But I mean, I know some of the things that I read on here about, the water deal, and there's a couple farms. So there's a main watershed up above, and I can't remember what the name of it is. It's like I think it's the West Maui Land Company or something like that, or water company or irrigation company or whatever it is. Anyways, down the hill from there is a couple farms. There's like a taro and a kalo farm. So it's just stuff that they farm there.
Yeah.
And there's always been a lot of, from what I'm reading on it, there's been a lot of, back and forth for years, way before the fire thing, that they fight over water in that area. And obviously agriculture, I mean, people need to realize agriculture uses more water than anything else. Every time, I live in a arid state, right, where water is a huge concern, and everybody's like, people need to stop watering their yards. Well, newsflash, most of us have a piece of cactus and rocks in our front yard, so we don't water hardly anything at all. The water conscious state of California, everybody's got green grass everywhere. So
golf courses everywhere.
Just saying. So, the biggest part, I mean, I think it's more than 75% of our water usage here is agriculture, right? So, and so that's kind of everywhere. Like as much as you're like, well, I'll only flush my toilet every second time. I'll pee and leave it in there and flush the second time. Listen,
so
it's so gross, right? But you're not doing anything. You're really not. I mean, that small amount of water is not doing anything compared to how much water is used out in the world for so many other things. I mean, again, California, almonds use a crap ton of water. So,
yeah, well, a lot of that water from the Colorado River goes to California.
It does. Yeah. No. And so, I mean, I don't want to get off on the tangent of California, but they negotiated water rights and stuff years and years ago. So, and obviously the population's bigger and everything. But people don't understand that water gets pulled from so many different things. So you have groundwater, right? So underground aquifers that you have, and then you have water flowing through like the Colorado River or, like big dams or anything like that. Different kind of lakes and stuff that they pull from. And I mean, they've already gotten, California is in question right now because we had a bunch of rainstorms here. What was it? It wasn't even this last month, just within the last month here. And one of the dams was overflowing. So what do? They dump all of that to where? The ocean, right? They don't save that. And so why do they do that? Well, because they have to keep this narrative up that we don't have enough water,
It's so much rain that everybody's water table should be high and filled now.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I know, and specifically in the city that I live in, you cannot build a house without at least 100 years of proof of water use. So basically enough for that house to sustain water for 100 years. That's a lot, and the reason they do that is to make sure that there's not overbuilding all these things. So there's ways to accurately do this and be conservative at the same time with resources. But going back to Hawaii, so that's part of the fight that they've had. So from what I've read, and there's nothing, not a lot of clear information, because like Josh Green, the governor over there, he's a little bit more talkative, it seems like, because he's not so directly connected. But like the mayor, and I don't know how to pronounce his name, Basine, the mayor over there, he's pretty tight-lipped and
Elusive.
basically, yeah, elusive. And then the same thing with M. Calio Manuel, the um, deputy director for the waterworks stuff. His thing, he was trying to negotiate with those companies, to get them, asking them basically if it was okay to use the water for. So I'm like, okay, I get.
No, I'm not asking anybody.
Right. I kind of get, I understand what he's trying to say, but it's like, yeah, but the fire department hooks up to a fire hydrant out here in front of my house. They don't come and knock on my door and ask me if they can pull that water.
It's not yours.
And in fact, right, it's not mine. And in fact, that's on a whole different system. So that's one thing I'm a little confused on, because the fire system is a different system than your standard city water that's coming through, right? So, and then usually in most places, like, big commercial areas, the stuff for grass or to water that's a whole different system entirely too. Like it has a what do they call it? Not backflush, but backflow system. So that doesn't get back into your regular water supply because it's supposed to be recycled water and stuff. So, yeah, none of this stuff makes sense that happened over there. And I said in the beginning, I think it was aliens. It's hard to.
The green ones.
Well, it gets harder and harder to rule out that our government and or people in power, companies, businesses, famous folks. Oprah's name gets thrown around, but it could be all kinds of different
multiple
people.
Like I said, Jeff Bezos has a house out there.
Bezos, yeah.
Several high power people have money out there and they look at, again, I said it earlier, even Will Smith had some iffy dealings out there.
Yeah.
Not too long ago, they had a couple of properties over there. So,
right.
I mean, what do they want? What do all these people that have all this money want? Privacy, right? For the most part, and they don't want to have these people so close by to their multi-million-dollar mansions.
Right.
They want,
you don't
privacy.
Want the peasants next to you.
Correct. And it's just weird because, like, even going back, like we were talking about earlier, there's much more questions than there are answers. Like I was hearing this, I don't know who it was, but it looked official. They were talking about there was bodies washing ashore on the neighboring island from because a lot of people jumped into the ocean because of the fire, the direction went. And I don't know if you've been around a forest fire or a fire that's like when something that big, it doesn't matter where you're at. You could be in the ocean right next to it, but that smoke is so thick.
The inhalation,
it's slowly killing you, man. So,
right. And that smoke is extremely hot too.
And
people
toxic.
Don't realize that.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And depending on what it is, it's toxic. So, and that's one of the things that they're saying is that they're not going to let people back on their own land because it's, the land is now toxic. It has to be cleaned and all this kind of stuff. And there's some very questionable things.
We want answers.
And, right.
What we want.
And the fact that people were, jumping into the ocean or whatever to get away from it is totally makes sense. I mean, you had on 9/11, man, we had people that were jumping out of the building, to not burn to death. They figured I'd rather hit the ground and not feel anything than burn alive, And so there's some facts in that.
But think about it, Jay. Okay, so that's a little bit different because you're in a building. So if let's say people on the floor above that, and even close to below that where the plane struck, it'd be hard, right? Because you've had probably fires already, and it would be hard, and you have no escape, so you had no other choice. But you're talking about a fire on land. Most people could get away from that, right? Most people could evacuate, can get out. But when you have that much loss of life, man, that means that fire just came out of like nowhere, and it just devastated and took it all up. Like how that I don't know. I just feel like the people of Lahaina, the people of Hawaii, need answers, and this government needs to answer these questions. Not just the local government or federal government. They like to be in everybody's business. Why aren't they out here speaking? Why isn't the president out there talking instead of just say, "Oh, I'm giving him $700"? Yay! You know what I mean? Why aren't we getting answers? Why are the citizens of Hawaii and the citizens of Lahaina not getting answers? And why aren't they getting taken care of? They're Americans, man. We would. This is who the government works for, right? This is who they need to be taking care of. Is the citizens of this great nation, not Ukraine. Man, I've seen videos,
we don't work for Ukraine.
I see videos of people over there and still partying. Like, is there a war going on over there? What's going on?
Right.
You know what I mean? But here's our own communities in our backyards that are falling apart. Man, the government, we need answers. That's all I'm saying, people. Don't forget about the people of Lahaina. Don't forget that this tragedy happened not too long ago. That's all I have to say about that.
Well, with that said, guys, right now we're going to put some a couple phone numbers and maybe some email addresses and stuff on the bottom of the screen. So, and these are legit companies that you can donate to, and places that you can call for any kind of help. We want to really make sure those folks over there get get some help. And gosh, it's horrific, everything that they're going through. And obviously loss of life is the number one thing, but historical stuff and everything, it's just really sad to see those things lost after this whole deal. But with that said, thanks so much, guys, for hanging out with us today. I'm Jay, and that's Joe, and this has been Joe and Jay Outspoken. If you learned anything today or liked what we had to say, do us a favor, like, subscribe, and comment and share. If there's a topic you would like to see us cover in the future, let us know at joeandjayproductions.com/ideas. You can also send questions there if you have any, and we promise to start reading them now. So if you would like to help the cause, it can be as small as liking, subscribing, and commenting. You can also grab merch from the Outspoken store or become one of our Patreon members. Thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. Take care of one another.
Remember to do better, be better.
And as always, God bless America.